Hello, my name is Chrissy Love. How are you today? Did a little bit of exercise, that's why I'm kind of out of breath. 2016-27 edition, American Government and Politics Today. Brief edition. Whew. Fundamental values. LO4 summarizes the conflicts that can occur between the values of liberty and order, and between those of liberty and equality. The writers of the U.S. Constitution believed that the structures they had created would provide the both popular sovereignty and a stable political system. They also believed that the nation would be sustained by its political culture. The pattern and set of ideas, values, and ways of thinking about government and politics and characterized its people. Even today, there is a considerable consensus among American citizens about certain concepts, including the rights to liberty, equality, and property that are deemed to be basic to the U.S. political system. Most Americans are descending of immigrants who came from diverse culture and political backgrounds. You can see how immigration will continue to change the composition of the nature in future years in Figure 1. And the full color insert at the beginning of this book, given the changing nature of our population now and in the past, how can we account for the broad consensus that exists around basic values? Primarily, it is the result of political socialization, the process by which political beliefs and values are transmitted to new immigrants and to our children. The two most important sources of political socialization are the family and the educational system. See Chapter 6 for more details. Discussion of the political socialization process. The most fundamental concepts of the American political culture are those of the dominant culture. The term dominant culture refers to the values, custom, and language dominant culture. The term dominant cultures refers to the values, customs, and language established by the groups that traditionally have controlled politics and government in a society. The dominant culture of the United States has its roots in Western European civilization. From the civilization, American politics inherited a bias in favor of individualism, private property, and Judeo-Christian ethics. Liberty versus order. In the United States, our civil liberties include religious freedom, both the right to practice whatever religion we choose and the right to be free from any state-imposed religion. Our civil liberties also include freedom of speech, the right to express our opinions freely on all matters, including government actions. Freedom of speech is perhaps one of our most prized liberties. Because a democracy could not endure without it, these and many other basic guarantees of liberty are found in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Liberty, however, is not the only value widely held by Americans. A substantial portion of the American electorate believes that certain kinds of liberty threatens the traditional social order. The right to privacy is a particularly controversial liberty. The United States Supreme Court has held that the right to privacy can be derived from other rights that are explicitly stated in the Bill of Rights. The Supreme Court has also held under the right of privacy. The government cannot ban either abortion or private homosexual behavior by consenting adults. Some Americans believe that such rights threatens the sanctity of the family and the general culture, commitment, or moral behavior. Of course, others disagree with this point of view. Security is another issue that follows from the principle of order. When Americans have felt particularly fearful or vulnerable, the government has emphasized natural security over civil liberties. Such was the case after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, which led to the U.S. entry into World War II. Thousands of Japanese Americans were held in internment camps based on the assumption that their loyalty to the country was in question. More recently, the terrorist attacks on the Pentagon and the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, renewed calls for greater security at the expense of some civil liberties. Liberty versus equality. Declaration of Independent States. All men are created equal, and that's including women. The proper meaning of equality, however, has been disputed by Americans, such as revolution. Much of American history, and indeed world history, is a story of how the value of equality, the idea that all people are of equal worth, has been extended and elaborated. First, the right to vote was granted to all adults, white males, regardless of whether they owned property. The Civil War resulted in the end of slavery and established that the principle, at least, all citizens were equal before the law. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s sought to make the promise of equality a reality for African Americans. Other movements have sought equality for additional racial and ethnic groups. For additional ethnic groups, okay. For women, for persons with disabilities, and for gay men and lesbians. Although many people believe that we have a way to go yet to obtaining full equality for all of these groups, we clearly have come a long way already. No American in the 19th century could have imagined that the 2008 Democratic presidential primary elections would be closely fought contests between an African American, Illinois Senator Barack Obama, and a white woman, New York Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. The idea that same-sex marriage could even be open to debate would have been mind-boggling as well. Prompting equality of others requires limiting the right to treat people unequally. In this sense, equality and liberty can be conflicting values. Today, the right to deny equal treatment to the members of a particular race has very few defenders. Yet as recently as 50 years ago, the right was a cultural norm. It can also be argued that liberty and equality are complementary. For example, people or groups cannot really enjoy liberty if they do not have equal rights under the law. Oh, shoot.